Time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
All right, maybe we need to check the thermal exhaust ports on the Obama star behind us. One good thing came out of last night's... Well, a few good things. One really good thing. Once again, finally, our friends on the right trust the media and believe in polls. All it took was one debate to magically change their minds. Bradshaw with you here on The Day After. Thursday afternoon in the capital city. Thanks for coming along. TheBradshawShow.com. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. You can get all that at thebradshawshow.com. If you want to call, again, all are welcome, few are capable, 244-0077. Fair to say Barack Obama lost last night. And we'll explain that as we go along. The number one thing is what I posted. I tweet a lot during these events. Some people like it, some people don't. I apologize in advance. It's just simply going to happen. But my number one takeaway last night is someone who has followed this race since weeks. I think it was like 2 weeks after the 2008 elections. We already had the GOP clown car stopping in Des Moines. I think Bobby Jindal was the first. Like even before the calendar moved to 2009. But as someone who's followed this race closely, fair to say more so than most people, the Mitt Romney we saw on stage last night, the only resemblance between that guy and the guy that has been campaigning for president since 2007 was the hair. Last night was the great Etch-a-Sketch shake. Was it honest? No. But it was effective. To a degree. Again, I want to thank those friends of ours on the right who all of a sudden, again, believe in polling, believe in media. And seriously, if there was this liberal media they all talk about, don't you think they would have done a better job of spinning the president's performance last night? It was bad. Let's start there. Actually, let me take that back. Of the three people in the spotlight yesterday, yes, there were three. The one that had by far the worst night was Jim Lehrer, PBS host. Bring up the Lehrer clip. This is just a sampling last night of probably the worst debate moderating I've ever seen.
What is the difference?
Well,
let's just stay on taxes.
Right.
Yeah, just let's just stay on taxes for a moment here.
Well, but
what is
virtually everything you just said about my tax plan is inaccurate.
All right.
So Jim, let me just come back on that point, which
just
is
these
small businesses we're talking about.
Excuse me, just so everybody understands.
Yeah.
We're way over our first 15 minutes.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's okay. It's great.
That's
great.
okay.
No problem. Now you all don't have a problem. I don't have a problem because we're still on the economy.
Right.
But we're going to come back to taxes and we're going to move on to the deficit and a lot of other things too. Okay, but go ahead, sir. We're going to move to a
no, I have to respond to that,
well,
which is my experience as a governor for institutions.
Well, there's a specific.
But let me mention the other one. Let's talk the other big one.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's let him respond. Let's let him respond to this specific on Dodd-Frank and what the governor just said.
Jim Lehrer pretty much got steamrolled through the entire night.
Well, that's the most presidential I've ever seen Romney act. He just steamrolled right on. I love it.
Well, and that's what I said yesterday. Romney will appear more presidential after the debate. I said this yesterday afternoon. That comes with being part of the presidential debates, and he did a very good job of seeing an opportunity and taking it. That was good on his feet thinking. I mean, credit where credit is due. And again, we'll get into the honesty of all that he was saying because it was a little challenged. But Jim Lehrer had a bad night. That will probably be the last time we see him moderating a presidential debate. And again, it's not that I want the moderator, strictly controlling. I think the, green light, yellow light, red light is stupid. Let him talk. The whole point of having a moderator in a situation like that is to, keep the conversation kind of on the rails and pull them away from talking points. These are two guys who, at this point, could give you a stump speech in their sleep, and probably do. If you allow them to I'm just going to straight up pontificate, and here's my 5-point plan. Romney did that a couple of times last night. That's all they're going to do. That's the, safest way of doing it. And they just, you talk past each other. And that's kind of what we saw last night. Again, credit where credit is due. Romney saw that landscape and adapted to it. And pretty much steamrolled Jim Lehrer at every opportunity. I would have liked to see a little more forceful, maybe just because I was watching the newsroom this season, but Jim Lehrer had the worst night. Second worst night was the president. Now, let me explain. Again, everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. Talked about it yesterday. Romney will get a bump out of this. I said it before the debate. I'll say it after. Stature-wise, he will seem more presidential. That comes with being on stage with the president. The performance was just kind of a bonus. Last night, what I saw to the president was football fans will be familiar with the prevent defense. I am not a football guru. I can do a much better job of explaining the infield fly rule. The prevent defense is basically this. If you have a lead, a sizable lead late in a football game, your goal is to not give up the 80-yard touchdown bomb. You play the safeties back. Am I explaining this right, Dan? You're wearing a football jersey. The prevent defense is late in the game. You loosen up. You're okay with giving up 5 yards here, 3 yards here. You don't want to give up the big strike. If they want to burn up the clock and move the football down the field, you're fine. You just don't want the big hit.
Yeah, you're just protecting against a Hail Mary.
Yeah. That's the prevent defense, and that's what Obama was trying to do last night. He didn't do a very good job of it. I understand the strategy. I think our friends on the right would have a hard time today finding something in that debate to use against Obama, something to beat him over the head with. I think that's why, driving in today, what am I hearing on the talk radio? I'm hearing Chris Matthews and Ed Schultz, the response to the debate. The president didn't give them any red meat to work with. So in that sense, that's playing with a lead. It's certainly not what I would have liked. The whole point of these debates, right, is gladiatorial combat. One guy with an axe, one guy with a mace. Are you not entertained?
You want to know who I think won? I think Gary Johnson won.
No.
Yeah, I don't think Mitt did a good job of convincing anybody.
Well, now
he may have beat up the president and the moderator, but
to that, because this is the reality check. Listening to right-wing radio today, I tweeted this earlier. For at least one day, they won't need to take all of those male enhancement pills that they've been pitching for years. They are giddy. They are excited. They are, jubilant. Let me just give you a bit of reality perspective. Everyone in the right is talking about this. This is the CNN post-debate poll. Interviews with 430 Americans who watched the presidential debate. This is what you're going to see Hannity talk about, Rush talk about, Huckabee talk about, Glenn talk about. They're all talking about this poll. And for once, they're not going to talk about the percentages of Republicans because this number right here, top of page 1, who do you think did the best job in the debate, a.k.a. who won? 67% say Romney. Now, for most of the right-wingers, that's where they're going to stop reading this. what they should look is right below it. It's the same page, but they'll never get to it. And what this is debate trends since 1984. And this is the reality check. The first Mondale-Reagan debate, 1984, October 7th, was widely seen as a crushing defeat for President Ronald Reagan. Gallup had it 54-35 Mondale. And we all know that Walter Mondale took the momentum from that first debate win and carried it all the way to losing 49 states. Okay, maybe that's an outlier. What about 1988? President Bush, or Vice President Bush at the time, taking on Michael Dukakis. Michael Dukakis straps on his helmet, gets in the tank, and obliterates Vice President Bush in the presidential debate, 38-29. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael Dukakis lost that election, right? Can someone fact check this? Okay, maybe that's an outlier. No one really liked, George Herbert Walker Bush. Let's get back to 1992. Now we have a wild card here. And by wild, I mean like clinically insane Ross Perot versus then President Bush, Governor Bill Clinton. Ross Perot won that debate handily. Won the third debate too, but the first debate's what we're talking about here. Comparing apples to apples. 47 to Clinton's 30 to Bush's 16. Okay, maybe that's. In 2000, Al Gore beats George W. Bush in the first debate. And I think most of us remember John Kerry coming out and absolutely crushing President Bush in 2004. 53-37. Again, to give you some idea of what kind of change you get from these poll or these debate performances, which isn't much. In fact, probably the biggest news that absolutely no one outside myself is going to talk about, Eric Erickson, and he is a prominent right-wing blogger, tweeted, and it was like 1 a.m. last night, that he had been on the phone with some rather large Romney backers. And talk of the last 2 weeks was, at what point do the money folks, your Sheldon Adelsons, the big money donors, the Karl Roves and their PACs, at what point do you give up on Romney because it's a lost cause and you're just throwing, money in a dumpster fire, and take that cash and throw it towards House races, give it to Latham, give it to Steve King as a last-minute boost, even give it to like a Todd Aiken down in Missouri, in hopes that, again, while he is an embarrassment to the party, that certainly never stopped them from supporting Steve King before. But funnel the money into congressional, Senate, governor's races, where it can do more good. You'll get a lot more bang for your buck. And Eric Erickson, a report after spending some time on the phone post-debate with some prominent, won't give names, of course, which is unfortunate, Romney backers, that they are going to keep funneling money to him. And long-term, again, that's the best case scenario, because at the end of the day, debate performance doesn't move polls. This same CNN study, which, if you want to talk about, by the way, unskewing the polls, if you want to look it up, I can send you a copy. On page 8, their sample is entirely made up of Southern whites. I mean, I'm not like majority white, like entirely. Like Northeast, not available. Midwest, not available. West, not available. South, 100%. Age 35 to 49, not available. Age 18 to 34, not available. Non-white, not available. Like literally every person they polled was over the age of 50 and white and Southern. I would expect President Obama to not necessarily score well in that group. I think there's, again, the horse race angle is overplayed. If there wasn't a debate last night, by the way, the number one story of the day would be Gallup today releasing the president's job approval rating at 54%. That's the highest it's been since 2009. But again, that gets swept away in debate performance land. The president did not give a good performance. Mitt Romney did. It's as simple as that. Does it mean a heck of a lot long term? Not really. I mean, certainly for those of us who, again, I'm feeling a little Conan. What is the best? Are you a Conan the Barbarian fan, Dan?
Not particularly.
What is the best thing? Crush your enemy, hear lamentations of their women.
I liked Thundercats. It's kind of the same thing.
Thundercats was nothing similar, but who doesn't enjoy the sort of...
Well, they kind of look alike. You know, they're wearing like...
Conan doesn't really look like Lion-O, no.
Sure he does. He's wearing a loincloth.
I mean, I could see you being a big Snarf fan. You kind of have the hair for it.
Yeah, no, he was wearing a loincloth and had a sword. I mean, what more about...
He was also a cat.
That's fine.
As opposed to a barbarian.
That. You have that. It's a Thundercat.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Panther. Yeah, two completely separate things.
I think that actually he was a lion, not a panther.
Well, no, Panthro was a panther.
Yeah, but that guy was black.
Chitara was a...
That guy was black and didn't look anything like
No, he was
Conan.
blue, actually.
Well, he's supposed to be black. He's tattoo black is what that's called. It's a shade of blue.
No, Panthro was blue. I mean, he was a blue...
It's tattoo black.
Panther dude.
Trust me. It's tattoo black. So name the color.
Okay, but he's a blue color.
Yeah,
Chitara was yellow. Lion-O was like a grayish...
Yeah, they were going off of old artwork,
Blue.
though. Anyway, go ahead.
I was never a huge Thundercats fan. Transformers and G.I. Joe, far superior.
Well, Transformers
I
was
would
the
even
best.
argue Mask was better than Thundercats.
No, Thundercats is all right. I like that.
No,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were pretty good, though.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
when they came
were
out,
awesome.
they killed everybody.
Long story short, debate performances don't change a whole heck of a lot. The fundamentals of the race are the same. The president didn't play a very good prevent defense and certainly did a good job of lowering expectations for the second debate. I think the only real question to come out of last night is, how unleashed will Joe Biden be? Again, righties are making the same mistake morons always do, and believing their own spin. Like, folks on the right truly believe that Joe Biden is an incompetent boob. Maybe they've been reading The Onion. Although, to be honest, The Onion's version of Joe Biden is actually pretty awesome. Typically, again, presidential candidates act presidential, and your attack dog is the VP candidate. And we'll see exactly how far they let Biden go. He's been at this a while and has done a few of these debates.
Yeah, but he's been relatively quiet. I mean, you don't hear a whole lot of reporting on Biden.
He's in Iowa today.
I know. I know they're campaigning today, but I'm saying in general throughout the last 4 years, you haven't known much about him. I mean, I don't know one thing Biden's...
He loves trains. That's really the only thing you need to know.
Yeah, well, Al Gore loved owls. It was all the same.
But Al Gore fell into kind of the similar trap of being consulted to death.
Sure.
There was a week where he wore all earth tones because they polled well. And he literally had the most popular politician of a generation at his disposal and ran away from the Clinton record. I mean, Al Gore ran a very bad campaign all around.
That was very inconvenient of him.
If the guy we've seen the last few years ran for president, and this country would look a lot different. Anyway, 244-0077. Email me at radiobradshaw@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Especially double plus fun for events like last night. And even when I don't get the results that I would prefer, I'm still a fan of the Twitter medium, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Sign up and, come say hello. They were doing over-unders on how many times I would tweet last night. Take the over is generally a good piece of advice. And that doesn't count retweets. So when we come back, we'll dig kind of in the meat. Because, again, you want to talk about the 67% of people who believed that Mitt Romney won the debate. Well, I'd be one of those. Doesn't mean I would vote for Romney. What's more interesting than the results was, again, the motivation and the method. And the Romney we saw last night bore very little resemblance to the guy we've seen the last few months especially, but even from the Republican side. We'll get into some how he did it. Spoiler alert, lying his ass off. I'll explain when we come back. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter. Go to thebradshawshow.com. And thanks for watching here on The Bradshaw Show, powered by Webcast One Live. Back right after this.
Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
Rock concert.
We good? All right. 153, Bradshaw with you here. The day after.
Ready, go.
Again, a good night for Mitt Romney. A good night does not an election turn. And I have to admit, tuning into the talk radio and again, having kind of watched the descent into madness, right? After the nomination was finally settled, and hopes were high on the right because this was going to be an easy election to win, right? The economy sucks, and people are disaffected. They're not happy. Unemployment's high. Right? It's going to be a cakewalk for the challenger. No incumbent can survive this. We obviously know this to be true, and we will proclaim it as such. And as Romney has sank in the polls, the 5 stages of grief, all portrayed through one radio show, a little lashing out. Certainly, they are well versed and spend a little extra time on the anger stage. Tuning in today, and they're all, It's cartwheels and lollipops, sunshine, unicorn farts. They are having an amazing time. But flipping through the radio, I keep going back to Bane. Not Bane Capital, Bane. We've all seen The Dark Knight Rises, right? Talking about his prison and why it's the worst thing ever in history. And not because it's a prison and not because it's a dire place, but because there's a hole in the ceiling. And it gives you this sense of hope, which makes the despair all the more powerful. So, as we move forward and the polls don't change, and Romney still trails, that little bit of hope, and again, I'm not saying this is put sort of pedestal or a good person or bright and right feelings. This is someone who wants to see them beaten, run into the ground, and hear the lamentations of their women, especially Michelle Bachmann. I am as partisan as you get. I want to see them broken. I believe that the current Republican Party is bad for America. Not because I disagree with them. But because, they are truly poisonous. They see me as the enemy of good, right in America. It is a party that needs a serious overhaul. Gino emails radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Why did they have John Kerry do the presidential debate prep? Because he's a gazillionaire? They should have dug John Edwards up. He's a real rat Fleegler. I don't think we can use that language. My guess is there'll be a new stand-in. Just a hunch. I actually think that Barack Obama did not prepare for the version of Mitt Romney that appeared on stage last night. The Etch-a-Sketch Romney. I'll explain that in a second. First, Ron, my buttons work. Welcome. What can I do for you today?
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I didn't watch the debate last night because I really don't think there's much of a point to the debates. They're kind of, I think the people who call them kind of political reality TV have it right. You're just kind of waiting around for a zinger or something, and I don't think it decides much of anything. I think the debate has been going on for 4 years. And if you haven't made up your mind between Romney and Obama by now, I wouldn't know what to tell you.
Well, that's another part of the lack of gravity of the debates is odds are if you're watching, you've already chosen. If you're that disinterested, you're probably A, not watching, and B, not going to vote in the first place. One thing, CNN, everyone loves these undecided voter panels. They do the little focus groups. Mm-hmm. Just to give an idea, after the shellacking that Obama got last night, I think that it was 39 undecided voters. I assume the 40th had something better to do that night. Of that group, 8, after watching the debate, said they were now more likely to vote for Romney. 8 said they were more likely to vote for the president. The rest remain unchanged. Again, the sound and the fury of these debates is strong, but they don't move a whole heck of a lot.
Well, I've been fitting Obama's basic strategy into the whole rope-a-dope kind of strategy. And this would be a pretty good part of that. I mean, it looks like Obama took a beating last night, and I'm sure that righties are high-fiving each other. Yeah, look, we sure showed him what for last night, and actually, no, he didn't. I mean, it was just TV, and TV isn't real, and it's all contrived, it's all fake, and I'm sure that Romney knew that this was Romney had everything to lose. Okay, yeah. He had to put on a performance last night. Otherwise, the narrative that he's a loser would have just which is still the narrative, would be like spinning out of control, and there would be nothing he could do to stop that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in a day or two. David Gergen, who, for God's sake, goes back to the Ford White House, was probably as cold-blooded as you'll get in cable news. All out called Romney a liar, and that Obama did not expect Romney to come out and just lie. I don't think the president did, and I think that's a preparation fail. Same thing we talked about yesterday. The Obama campaign had two paths to go with this election. They could portray Mitt Romney as a flip-flopper. And that would probably be the easier path. I mean, if you want, there's a 19-minute YouTube video of Mitt Romney taking one position, then taking the other, taking one position, taking the other. There's the website, multiple choice Mitt. And this goes back to his, old debates with Ted Kennedy. They instead made the correct prediction that Mitt Romney would run to the right. The base of the party is such an anchor that you are constantly having to appease them. In policy, even in style, in your VP pick, they were going to portray Mitt Romney as this guy that was just a slave to the far right in his party. And they were correct. They just didn't plan, I think, for the other Mitt Romney, to pop out of a jack-in-the-box yesterday.
Well, the last debate is supposed to be the foreign policy debate. And even if Romney presents himself well, I think he's still not going to gain, because all he's going to say is the U.S. should be tougher against the whole rest of the world. And at this point, the American people are tired of war. They're tired of aggression. They're just tired of the whole deal. And anyone who comes around, anyone who starts talking bellicose language, I don't think is going to resonate.
Well, I think you'll hear a lot of Israel talk. You'll hear a lot of Libya. I just wonder with events in Turkey and Syria yesterday.
But he has to, and I don't think he can do this. He has to talk in a way where he's not saying, I'm going to lead you to war, because no one wants to go to war at this point.
Well, I think Mitt Romney learned a valuable lesson yesterday, and Ron, I appreciate the call. The Romney we saw on stage last night was Massachusetts Mitt Romney, moderate Mitt Romney, not the guy that's been on the campaign trail the last few months. Now, if I'm running the Romney campaign, I see an opening here, because he ran, against his own record and his own policy yesterday. He ran as a moderate. But yet all the wingnuts today are hooting, hollering, and cheering because he won. And that's the difference. That creates an opening. Now, we'll see if he can maintain it, because it definitely takes some quick footwork. The Republicans will support him on it if they think he's A, strong, B, a winner, and I guess C, makes their PPs feel bigger, which is the real root of it. But let's get into some of the details. And the big one last night, with the president and Romney discussing taxes. In this case, the $5 trillion tax cut that Romney's been proposing on the trail. Not a whole lot of specifics. The one specific that you'll get from the Romney campaign is that he wants to cut 20% off of each bracket. This money equals about $5 trillion. Comes from the Tax Policy Center. Now, Romney also makes the claim that it will be revenue neutral, because what he wants to do then is close loopholes and take away tax deductions to equal that 20% tax cut. The problem is there's no way to do it. If you run the numbers even if you took away, every tax deduction for that top 1%, you're still left about $80 billion short, just among the rich. It can't be done. Now, if you, take the machete and go to town and remove the child tax credit, the home mortgage interest deduction, college tuition. Basically, if you remove middle-class tax breaks almost entirely, you can come close to making it up. And again, this is where I think the president was caught unawares last night. Because not only did Mitt Romney not offer any specifics as to where he was going to pay for this $5 trillion tax cut, he didn't even agree with himself over the tax. Bring up the cut, the Mitt on taxes. Because one is a clip from his Republican debate, and one is a clip last night. See, something doesn't quite add up.
There were so many misrepresentations that it's going to take me a little while. Number one, I said today that we're going to cut taxes on everyone across the country by 20%, including the top 1%. So that's number one. So if the tax plan he described were a tax plan I was asked to support, I'd say absolutely not. I'm not looking for a $5 trillion tax cut. I will not reduce the share paid by high-income individuals. I know that you and your running mate keep saying that, and I know it's a popular thing to say with a lot of people, but it's just not the case.
Okay, so which one is it? Dan, do you want to guess? You just watched that clip. You didn't watch the debate last night. Which one do you think's the real Romney?
Oh, I think both of them are the real Romney. That's the problem.
Okay, that you have a good point there. But when he's talking to the Republicans at the Republican debate, I'm cutting taxes for everyone, including the top 1%. And then last night, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just think the guy's full of crap. I don't know how else to put it.
Pretty much.
It's, oh, well, you like me to say this, so I'm going to say this. Well, you don't like that, so I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say this.
Well, I've said it for months now. Romney is a salesperson. He is a sales guy. What do I need to say to close the deal? What do I need to close the deal on the nomination?
Yeah, and he's not just a salesperson, because that's offensive to guys like me who have sold, real estate or something professional and done quite well. I didn't have to lie to people and kowtow to them.
No, but that is certainly a strategy.
It's a horrible strategy, though, which leads, I expect him to say things like, well, honestly, because, when you say honestly, it implies that you're not being honest some of the time. I'm just waiting for him to bust out the honestly thing.
Again, play that clip one more time, because this, again, I think this is the pinnacle of kind of Mount BS. Again, listen to Romney talk at the Republican debate and listen to Romney talk last night.
There were so many misrepresentations that it's going to take me a little while. Number one, I said today that we're going to cut taxes on everyone across the country by 20%, including the top 1%. So that's number one. So if the tax plan he described were a tax plan I was asked to support, I'd say absolutely not. I'm not looking for a $5 trillion tax cut. I will not reduce the share paid by high-income individuals. I know that you and your running mate keep saying that, and I know it's a popular thing to say with a lot of people, but it's just not the case.
I mean, the heart of the Romney debate strategy was buy his ass off. And it wasn't just on the tax plan, although I think that was the most blatant. Last night we saw a return of death panels that even brought Chuck Grassley out of the woodwork to tweet about it. In the same conversation, Obamacare was described as a government takeover of health care. What? Hey, no, I don't.
Sorry about that. He walked in.
But to answer your question, no, not by far. You can explain to him the poll numbers that show how it doesn't matter, though. But in addition to and lying about his taxes or his tax plan, his taxes, we don't know. He won't release them. I want to see 2009. Lying about Obamacare. And by the way, one area where he was admittedly dishonest, talking about his own health care plan. And this was caught in the post-debate spin room where Eric Fernstrom, one of his advisors, had to admit that unlike what Mitt pledged in the debate, his plan doesn't actually cover pre-existing conditions. He claimed that over half of the president's green energy projects have failed. That one they actually did admit they were wrong about. He claimed that the president put in place as much public debt as all prior presidents combined. When Obama took office, the national debt was at $10.6 trillion. It's at 16 now. Not right. Just running through some of the other list. I support no change for current retirees and near retirees to Medicare. And this was, again, talking about the Obamacare debate. The problem is his plan does affect current retirees. Not just through the gutting of Medicaid, where things like long-term care come from, but also and you just lose buying power if you pull people out of Medicare. And yes, the younger, healthier people take their health stamps, I guess you want to call it, and go buy private insurance. Shrinks the pool for everyone. So if you're not one of the younger, healthier types, and I live in a big insurance town, right? We're right up there with Hartford. I've yet to ever see a health insurance company executive, CEO, stand up and go, you know what we need? We need more elderly and infirmed on our rolls. We should really recruit those types. Frankly, they're more expensive. Romney was talking, he was asked about vouchers. And again, this is where moderation fail comes in. This is Romney being asked about vouchers. And watch how he doesn't answer the question and just kind of moves on to something else.
Do you support the voucher system, Governor?
What I support is no change for current retirees and near retirees to Medicare. And the president supports taking $716 billion out of that program.
Well, what about the voucher?
So that's number one.
All right.
Number two is for people coming along that are young. What I do to make sure that we can keep Medicare in place for them is to allow them to either to choose the current Medicare program or a private plan, their choice. They get to choose, and they'll have at least two plans that will be entirely at no cost to them. So they don't have to pay additional money, no additional $6,000. That's not going to happen. They'll have at least two plans. And by the way, if the government can be as efficient as the private sector and offer premiums that are as low as the private sector, people will be happy to get traditional Medicare, or they'll be able to get a private plan. I know my own view is I'd rather have a private.
Of course, if I had $20 million a year in income, I'd want a private plan too. I wouldn't just buy a Cadillac plan. I'd get one of those. He
didn't say plan. He said plane. He wants a private plan.
No, he said he wants a private plan. And at his income level, that absolutely makes sense.
Probably his private plane makes sense too.
Most people aren't quite in his income level, which is a bit of a problem. Some of the other issues. He talked about Obamacare killing 700,000 jobs. Rewind. If you look at the studies, what they actually say, again, you're entitled to your own opinion, not your own facts, is that right now there are approximately 700,000 people working in America who don't need to except for the access to health insurance. Again, there are people who could walk into, a Wells Fargo job, right? get health insurance as part of the group plan who could not get it buying it on their own. Either they couldn't afford it or pre-existing conditions. There are people working solely for the health insurance benefits. Once you remove the pre-existing conditions, hurdle, well, now it's a different ballgame. And what the folks who study this sort of thing say is you will have approximately 700,000 people who don't need to work anymore. They're not working for the income. They're working for the benefits, who can then drop out of the labor force of their own volition. Now, to me, that would seem like a positive. Certainly, there's no shortage of unemployed people right now. Opening up 700,000 positions for people who need work, while 700,000 people can go, tan in Maui and still have health insurance until they get to 65 and move to Medicare. Sounds like a good thing to me. This came up, I believe, out of the Bachmann camp during the Obamacare debate. Again, if you look at it in some sense, it's going to cost 700,000 jobs. No, it's going to open 700,000 jobs. It's lying. Maybe the biggest thing, by the way, to come out of the debate when Mitt was talking about things he wanted to cut. And I think this is the number one thing to leave the political sphere. Right? There aren't a whole lot of us who want to sit and debate the merits of Obamacare and Romneycare and the Paul Ryan budget. Some things, though, are almost universal in this country. And that is when Romney took on PBS. You bring up the clip because this, I think, is going to be the, health of the mother. This is going to be the remembered moment.
And what letter is this clip popped to us by?
F and U.
Jim, I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird. Actually, like you too. But I'm not going to keep on spending money on things to borrow money from China to pay for. So that's number one. Number two, I'll take programs that are currently good programs, but I think could be run more efficiently at the state level and send them to the state. Number three, I'll make government more efficient. I'm going to cut back the number of employees, combine some agencies and departments. My cutbacks will be done through attrition, by the way. This is the approach we have to take to get America to a balanced budget.
Going to cut PBS and Big Bird. Now, again, even people who don't care about politics might even not know what a Mitt Romney is. Sounds like something you can buy in the red light district. No PBS. And especially no Sesame Street. And a lot of us value educational programming that isn't just a 30-minute toy commercial. So,
yeah, but you got other companies doing it better than Sesame Street does. We got Dora the Explorer. They teach Spanish.
Oh yeah, Steve King's a big fan of that.
And then of course we've got you got Diego, her cousin, also teaching Spanish, and then you got Mihao Kailin, speaking Japanese or some kind of...
I believe that's Chinese.
Is it Chinese?
Isn't that the...
I don't know. I'm not
fluent. I'm not 100% up to date in my children's programming.
But these are private companies doing this better than I think Sesame Street's managed to do in years anyway.
I don't think I would say they do it better. I think what you have with Sesame Street is like our only concern is children's programming. We don't have to care about ratings and, more importantly, a revenue stream. We don't have to worry about syndication. All we have to worry about is quality content. I'll go back again. This has been something that has festered to some degree on the right since the late 60s. I don't have time, but one of these days I'll bust out Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, going in front of Congress to talk about PBS funding. And again, it was
that guy could debate.
But it was the nicest, friendliest, most simple, beat down with a tack hammer you will ever see in your
Oh
life.
yeah, he shanked him.
Yeah, but he did it again. I mean, the man was truly a master.
And he wasn't wearing a sweater, which was kind of.
And again, is there a person in America that doesn't remember Mr. Rogers taking us to the crayon factory and showing us how it worked? Even you remember that one, right? Yeah. See, it's a universal.
Yeah, I watched Mr. Rogers. I know all about the land of make-believe. I visited there as a young teenager several times. You figure
if there's anything that Mitt Romney and we plebes can both share in is, here's a man who certainly lives in the land of make-believe. You'd think he would want to support that and keep it.
Well, no, he wants to proselytize our youth into believing that his land of make-believe is the right one.
Is that the Planet Kolob?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm sure he'd be more in favor of handing out publicly broadcasted underwear.
But even folks who don't follow politics fought that one. And I think that was, again, not in the usual sense of a word, but that one was a gaffe. That's something that the Rushes and the Hannitys talk about. And yes, it was a bit of a, right-wing, far right-wing dog whistle. So it was when he brought up, oh, Mr. President, you've got a car and a plane, and you're going to lose those. That's the kind of stuff you hear on the Mark Levin show. So there were a few sops to the far right. But just to give you PBS is like 0.0001, percent. I mean, minuscule, tiny, almost non-existent. But when he talks about things we're going to do to balance the budget, because it's not worth borrowing money from China to pay for. And at the same time, borrowing money for China to increase military spending. So follow along with me here. We don't want to borrow money from China, but we're going to borrow money from China to pay for the military in case we have to fight China. We have now reached all around and placed our head strictly in a most uncomfortable place. No, not the back seat of a Volkswagen. I mean, ultimately, this is, for all the bluster, for all the great debate performance, and it was, the devil for Mitt Romney is always going to be in the details. His policies aren't popular. They never have been. Now, he can win the day and win the news cycle, but it loses you the war. And this is the problem that Mitt Romney is sitting on today. Is now, NPR, CNN's calling you a liar. The New York Times did their own. It was supposed to be real-time fact-checking. I was busy, actually watching the debate. Maybe the number one takeaway, and again, this is going back to the CNN poll, that every person on the right wing is going to do cartwheels over today. They need to go to page 4. Because this is Romney's ultimate Achilles heel. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Mitt Romney? And again, this is a poll exclusively of older Southern white people. If there is any group in America that is open to the idea of liking Mitt Romney over the president, pre-debate, 54% favorable. Higher than normal, but okay, that's our baseline. After the debate, 56. For the president, 49, 49. Flat. Not gaining ground, not losing ground. So for all the talk, all the sound, and all the fury, not a lot of traction comes out of the debates. if winning the first debate was a pivotal, game-changing event, well, President Mondale would have been very interesting to watch, or President Perot, or President Kerry, or President Dukakis, all people who won that first debate. The president did a very boring job of playing prevent defense and didn't do a very good job of it. You know, you still need to land some shots. And, well, he did bring up, some inconvenient facts for Romney, whose explanation will probably end up in attack ads against him the next couple of weeks or so. It's not the game-changing event that Romney needs. So next up is the vice presidential debate, and that one will be interesting because I have a sneaking suspicion that Biden is going to be off the chain. I think the cool, calm, collected Obama, again, that image won't be affected by Joe Biden. He is an effective attack dog. And seeing Paul Ryan press. Last weekend we saw Chris Wallace fluster Paul Ryan on Fox News, just asking for simple details. No, we don't have time to get into that. I haven't run the numbers. What do you think Joe Biden's going to do? Then 2 more presidential debates, and yeah, I think Team Obama will be ready for whatever Romney has to give. So, again, as a horrible human being in American says, let not your heart be troubled. The reality is, debates don't move the needle much. And if anything, it'll be fun watching the right-wingers go back to freaking out about the polls that they believed in for a day. Now they won't believe in moving future when it doesn't show a massive Romney landslide ahead. Gallup, again, good numbers. A new jobs report tomorrow. We'll see what that looked like, but the indicators are looking good. And come Monday, the race will be back to where it was yesterday. Minus Obama's, highest approval rating since November of 2009. Coming up on the show tomorrow, by the way, Frank Mink joins me. I'm especially, for those of you who don't know Frank Mink, he used to be a Nazi. Like, not just, angry about soup or, literally, I have swastikas tattooed to my neck. Hi, how are you doing today?
He probably also was angry about soup, though.
He was angry about everything. Probably matzo ball soup more so
specifically matzo ball soup
than anything. But yes, he was an angry young man who has now turned his life around, and he makes his living telling his story. And he wrote the book Autobiography of a Recovering Skinhead, which I highly recommend. It is a disturbing read. But just to give you some idea of how the other half lives. But I'm curious what he thinks about this this race and how dog whistles work. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. A few other quick hits of the news that aren't going to get much of attention because of the debate last night. If you missed it yesterday, in the ongoing, I guess you have to call it a civil war in Syria, a couple of artillery shells found their way over the Turkish border. Last night, an emergency NATO meeting. Again, the way NATO works, if one's attacked, we're all attacked. But just today, the Turkish parliament okayed military excursions into Syria. So we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully, again, the Russians and the Chinese and friends of Assad, if you will, believe it's truly nobody's business but the Turks, but I don't think Vladimir Putin is a big They Might Be Giants fan. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 1:30. Frank Mink will be my guest. We'll have the latest on what's going on in the world. And again, follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Radio Bradshaw. If for only to tell me what Ken Sorensen has to say. He blocked me for pointing out that he uses debunked emails as fact checkers. Always curious what kind of freakouts he's having. And again, for events like last night, it's a lot of fun, the back and forth and the tussle. And again, as someone who loves the conversation, always looking for feedback. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com, and go to thebradshawshow.com. It's got links to show archives and everything else you may need. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow at 1:30. Thanks for watching. Be back mañana here on Webcast One Live.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.